Hey everybody, what's up? Blake Scholar Magic here, and I have a deck tech for you today. This is a newer commander from Jumpstart Foundations. It's Ivora, the Insatiable Heir. It's a 1 generic mana, 1 red mana, legendary creature, vampire warrior, trample. When Ivora Insatiable Heir enters, and whenever it deals combat damage to a player, create a blood token. It's an artifact with 1. Tap. Discard a card, sacrifice this artifact, draw a card. Whenever you discard a card, put a 1/1 counter on Ivora. This card immediately stuck out to me. This is a card I discovered when I was playing in the Jumpstart Foundations promotion on MTG Arena. They allowed you to open up packs and kind of test out the different various themes in the Jumpstart subset. And I really love this card a lot. It's an uncommon rarity, but it just is really nice to put artifacts on the board. So you have it when it comes onto the battlefield. It will immediately put that blood token out. And then when you connect with this card through combat damage, you'll create another blood token. So that's kind of our first strategy to think about is artifacts, creating artifacts, utilizing those blood tokens to put particular cards into our graveyard. Reminds me a lot like Greasefang, the Okiba boss. Definitely a graveyard matters card. Definitely can go that route. And additionally, just a critical mass of creating artifacts through additional combats, whether it's giving Ivora double strike or it's having additional combats through various other cards that grant those type of possibilities. So that is the general premise of this card, and you can be very low to the ground because you're just a low-cost commander. You can play awesome cards like Mox Opal, for instance. You can play awesome cards like Mox Amber. You can play all those things because you're going to have a critical mass of artifacts with Ivora, I guarantee you. You're going to be hitting the board with treasures, with blood tokens, and you're just going to have a bunch of those things. And when you have those things on your battlefield, you're getting value. And you're going to get benefits from other cards. So honestly, A+ commander here for me. Really definitely hit all the buttons I needed to do. When I go about these decks, I usually just pull from some decks that I usually already have, deck ideas that I already have, and you'll kind of see that. I kind of picked up some cards along the way, but that's kind of the fun nature of this, and very seamless deck. And I really would suggest this for maybe even beginner players because it's a monocolored commander, and it has very cool powers, and it definitely will teach you about the game. So there's Ivora. Now, the highlights of Ivora is cards like Inti. This card is just a mega bomb with this card because you're going to freely discard with Inti, and then Inti is just going to give you that value. So whether even Ivora is on the battlefield, your deck is going to be based on discarding cards because you want Ivora to get bigger and bigger. Each time you discard a card with Ivora, she puts a counter on herself, a 1/1 counter, so she gets stronger. So Inti is just that nice kind of just team up, player with Ivora. And you can use your bloods, for instance, and then you can get value from that exiled card as well. It's just a really nice thing. And a lot of these are net positive because, cards like Faithless Looting, you're not going to lose cards, for instance. Mask of Memory, you're not going to lose cards, for instance. You're going to gain cards or you're going to equalize. Same with the bloods, you're equalizing, you're drawing and discarding. It's not like the other way around where you're just discarding and not getting anything back out of it. So Inti is a very interesting creature, and I just like the fact that it makes that creature stronger as through that attack. All of our creatures gain trample. In addition, when we do that type of that criteria of discarding the card on attack, and whenever you discard one or more cards, exile the top card of your library, you may play that card until your next end step. All right. Excuse me. Okay, Brass's Tunnel Grinder. This is another... I love this deck so much. There's just an abundance of discarding here. And you know what, guys? This card really grew on me. I feel like it's kind of a card you just lead on, and It's totally fine, right? For Ivora, it's not like it's competing with that commander spot. It's just additional one additional mana up from Ivora. You can all of a sudden like make Ivora like a really big threat all of a sudden, and then you can just start ticking away on this thing and getting this thing so you can turn it over. So that's kind of a cool. Basically, each time you descend on a turn, you get to put a counter on this, and once you reach a certain criteria, it turns into this awesome legendary land. Whenever you cast a permanent spell using mana produced by Tucleton, the Syrian Rift, discover X, where X is that spell's mana value. Very cool gas for us. Very cool card in general, and really nice home for this one. So it just needs 3 more of those boar counters on it, and it's at your end step. You don't do that during other person's turn. Sorry. So yeah, you do that 3 times, and that's why I say you probably want to put it out like on curve. Or whenever you have your mana accelerant, if you're accelerating on an earlier turn, you can have this done turn 2. That'd be great too. So these are the kind of things you want to do, right? Palantir is fantastic, a very threatening card, obviously, and just perfect for our deck because we just want to make sure that we're getting those cards, or cards into our graveyard. Whether we're drawing the cards or putting them in the graveyard, that's good for us. So we put our bad opponents in a tough decision each time. There is a really definitely an art for the Palantir of Orthonk. And I'm starting to see it. I watch Amy Amazonian. I've kind of watched my own play with it. And it's really kind of that first scry 2, which is very important. You have to understand about that scry 2 is that you'll only mill 1 card that first time around, right? So if you have, for instance, on that scry 2, if you love one of the cards a lot, just make sure you put it, and you want to draw it, just make sure you put it in that second slot. So that will be the card that you'll be drawing next. Or, in fact, if they let you draw even the first time around, it's going to be coming around the next draw step. You'll get that card that you put on the top, and the next one, of course, will be coming next. But for sure, usually an opponent will let you mill the first time around. So you don't want to just make sure that card that if the cards... if that one of those cards is to your liking, put it in that second spot the first time around so that you can draw it, and that's probably one of the first steps. And then you can let this thing ride out. You can put the cards to the bottom on their next phases and kind of let the RNG generator come out, and maybe you'll get some nice bombs in the graveyard. Your opponent might just let you draw. It's just like a win-win situation for you every time. I really like it a lot. I hope you do too. So there's the Palantir of Orthanc right there. Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Yeah, this is a perfect card for our deck. We get to draw a discard, or discard up to 2 cards in that chapter 2. And if you do draw that many cards, we'll also create that shaman token on the first stage. So we'll be creating treasures, and we definitely want to create treasures into this deck. We have some nice treasure synergy, like for instance, like a Reckless Fireweaver. And so this just does all the things we want it to do, obviously. And we definitely want to be, like I said, discarding cards and creating a critical mass of artifacts. Of course, the Kiki Jiki turns into that Chapter 3 token. I'm doing a lot of flip. You might be horrified that I'm flipping this foily Kiki Jiki, but there it is. And just leave it right there. And okay, the reflection of the Kiki Jiki. This is the one generic and a tap. Create a token that's a copy of another target non-legendary creature you control, except it has haste. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step. So that is a very nice effect for us. This thing can get really kind of nasty with our Ox of Agonis, for instance. Maybe in our Reckless Fireweavers, come mid-game when we're starting to put some pressure on our opponents and putting them in tough spots. We're just kind of draining them for life. I do like the reflection of the Kiki Jiki to just start creating tokens of our non-legendary creatures for the end of the turn. So that's a nice effect. What a beautiful card that is. Okay, the Mutt. So we love our Unearth cards for our Graveyard Matters decks. We'll just put this thing in the graveyard. Whether we would just want to put it and discard it freely and get it back later for some value, or just pick it up from some random self-milling as well. So we love the Scrapwork Mutt too. It just does all the things. It just checks all the marks for this, gives us a nice selection, and it has an artifact itself. So we love it. Love unearth cards for this deck. For instance, the Cityscape Leveler is fantastic. Mask of Memory is just going to be that great all-star. It's going to actually net us some cards when we connect. And we will be trying for those additional combats or double strike to kind of get us really nice combat damage kind of benefits for that. So each instance, of course, of combat damage, you draw 2 cards. If you do, discard a card. Of course, if you have double strike, that will trigger twice if the combat damage goes through twice. So you'll get to draw, then draw 2, discard, then draw 2, discard. So that's just a nice effect for the mask. A very low equip cost. We love it. Okay, Collector's Vault. This is a nice one because it basically enables the things we need. We need fodder or artifacts to sacrifice. For instance, this will create a treasure. Additionally, it will draw and discard a card. So Ivora loves it. So it does. It marks both of those. Marks both of those spots very well. Fear of missing out. This is just another really nice one. It could be part of your really nice turn 3 plays with Ivora, where you may be double spelling and get that nice discard. And then, of course, we can start building up that graveyard to get that delirium up so we can get some additional combat steps. For Ivora, for instance, would be fine, or maybe one of our double strikers that has a sword on it. So we just really like Fear of Missing Out. Okay, so that is actually a non-bow. Okay, so I do want to make a point that, for instance, the swords we do play will have protection from red. So unfortunately, that would not be a combination that we could utilize. But still, we still have benefits for having Ivora slam in. If she doesn't have a sword or one of our creatures that doesn't, just an extra combat step with for our creatures in general, and at least one that will be untapping is just a nice effect. And I do like to draw this card to start. Okay, here's Gamble. And I do want to mention, I do think Ivora could be like a Commander Lethal kind of card. I have noticed from testing, I can get it up to about 10, 11 power on some instances. And in this singleton format, which is better than Brawl, I will have access to cards like Commander's Plate. So I definitely think we have a better chance of getting there. So I am very optimistic that we can probably get in for some Commander Lethals in this deck, no doubt. Okay, here's the Gamble. So this one is great. Of course, it's going to let us tutor for any card for our deck, and it will make us discard. And we like discarding for Ivora because she gets buffer. So it's I don't feel bad about playing a Gamble, and we like things going to our graveyard anyways. So sometimes it's not going to work out for us. Maybe sometimes we just need to entomb a card. Maybe Gamble's the last card in our hand, and we go ahead and gamble, and we need that thing because maybe we have a Goblin Engineer or a Goblin Welder or a Duretti Scrap Savant ready to roll, and we're just ready to get that value out of the graveyard. So that's fine too. Here's Faithless Looting, and this is just an all-star, right? Because of course you get those draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards. Some nice selection there. And then the flashback, of course, it's always hanging out in our graveyard, ready to be used again if we need it in those circumstances. There's Bomat Courier, and also for that, Faithless Looting, it could really open up some really strong, early game plays if you have the right, combination of cards. Like a Goblin Welder that's very strong, and maybe you have a stronger artifact in your hand, and then you're getting into some powerful magic. You'll be a threat. But maybe enough of a threat where you can kind of get ahead further enough ahead early where you'll just win. Here's Bomat Courier. This one's another interesting one. I just like the idea of having this in an opener and this slamming across a couple opponents. Maybe getting down to some low gas in our hand and then popping this. Getting a regas and maybe perhaps even discarding some cards along the way to make Ivora nice and strong. So this one's another sneaky one where, we can probably entomb some cards into our graveyard and kind of get a little bit of value from both ends from the card draw and put in cards that we want to the graveyard. Seasoned Pyro. What a boss, guys. You just know this is a boss, right? Can't say enough about this card. This card was really great in the Brawl format too. I had a lot more single target removal, a lot more madness cards like Fiery Temper, I believe. just I was definitely utilizing the madness because there's a lot of good like kind of single target removal that goes along with that. So Season Power One was even better in that kind of version, I'd say. But this is just like a nice like kind of selection too, where you're discarding cards, you're putting new cards in your hand, and if you're empty-handed, you just draw 2 cards once you play this. So it's just great. It's overall just great action for us. Okay, so some of the all-stars in this deck we've kind of gone over, but some of them really stick out more than others, and I would have to say it'd have to be the Phyrexian Dragon Engine and Ox of Agonis. They really can go toe-to-toe with even like, even in the Brawl format, guys, like even like a Niv deck, like the Planeswalker versions that are just really nasty, kind of mid-rangey, even you would say late game powerhouses, and this deck would just grind with them. It was because there's cards like Mesmeric Orb that put a lot of cards in your graveyard, and then all of a sudden you're not like behind cards anymore. All of a sudden you're putting threats on the board and you're drawing cards. So just a card like Phyrexian Dragon Engine, the fact that you can just unearth this sucker and get like a regas out of it is just exceptional. So also really works well with your Goblin Engineer because you can just kind of resack it. It won't like, you won't even have to use its unearth cost. It'll frankly just enter from your graveyard and you'll just draw the 3 cards. You won't even have to lose it. You could keep doing it over and over again because the text goes such as that it just has to enter. In the unearthed form, it will be exiled at the end of combat, but it is what it is. It's still great value. There it is. Probably the best card in the deck. I'd rank it at like number 1 for me is the Ox of Agonis. So this card has just really surprised me. It's just like gives you new hope all of a sudden. Like I said, like you pop down a Mesmeric Orb, and then on a turn cycle, all of a sudden an Ox of Agonis shows in your graveyard, and all of a sudden you have access to a ton of cards. You just escape this because you're gonna have tons of cards in your graveyard. And then for 2 red, and then you have a 5/3 body, and you just draw 3 cards. It's crazy. It's just absolutely insane value for us. So we love the Ox here. It's great. Here's Reckless Fireweaver, and you can think of like the Ogier lines when you have like the new Ogier that you could deal non-combat damage and it would deal 4 power, for instance, instead of 1. Honestly, the 1 power to each opponent for each artifact that enters is enough, guys. I don't really think you need to do too much more. Honestly, the 1 damage is enough for each opponent on each instance of artifact. So you can imagine an Ivora, with a double strike, she's going to get in twice, and then all of a sudden she's doing 8 damage amongst all your opponents. And if treasures are being created again, there's another damage for each of those artifacts that is popping in. It's just like, this thing loves artifacts, and my God, we make a lot of artifacts. So there's a Reckless Fireweaver. Here's kind of our major payoffs too for creating abundance of artifacts. This one only requires 3 artifacts to sacrifice, so that's great. It's not like it's 5 or anything. I mean, 3 is very reasonable, and we just get to go into our library and put an artifact on the battlefield. That's completely busted. And then portal to Phyrexia. That's just like probably one of your targets for that, right? You're just like, these massive artifacts that are just so strong. Your opponents have to sacrifice 3 creatures. Like what? Like each opponent does sacrifice 3 creatures? That's crazy. And then on your upkeep, you get to bring in a creature in a graveyard under your control. That's crazy stuff. Here's the Triplicate Titan, and this is another one I just picked up recently, and that's similarly just a crazy 9/9 that we definitely want to just have access to, and whether it comes from the graveyard or something like a Kuldalta Forge Master, that's just going to be coming in, and it's going to be a scary thing, and it's going to be doing damage. And if we sacrifice it, we just get value out of that too, and can kind of repeat and rinse. So Cityscape Leveler is just, wow. What can you say about this card other than it's just really freaking good? And I love to cast this card, whether casting it or unearthing it, whatever, making copies of it with a Kiki-Jiki token. You have to say, like, if we can get a Cityscape Leveler online, you're definitely doing the right things, and you're definitely going to be in the game. So I love that. Here's a God Pharaoh's gift. And, if we're going to be putting so many things in the graveyard, let's start getting some of those creatures back on the battlefield and, really taking advantage of, putting that graveyard to the test and having some stronger artifacts that, we wouldn't be able to use in different circumstances. So the fact that we can resurrect these or just pull them out of the library just seems like a really good choice for us and to get more value out of the graveyard. Meteor Golem is that nice one-shotter. Just destroy a target non-land permanent when the center is just a really nice value. Just love the selection there. I love how Wormcoil Engine, how when it dies, once again you get value from it. So like we're not too sad about like sacrificing this card and putting it back in the graveyard and getting its little henchmen on the battlefield and putting more bodies to the board and creating more artifacts. Yeah, I like the 6-spot for this. I definitely have a card in mind called, I think it's called Saheeli's Directive, and we'll get to that. That's the only card I'm missing from this pile, and then I have a full deck, so I'm very excited. But the 6-spot I'd say is very important because you can definitely have sequences like in the early game. Like I've done some gold fishing, and I think like by turn 3, under certain circumstances, you could probably cast like a with improvise, like basically a X for 6 Saheeli's Directive. And I think that's why the 6 spots are kind of important. So I do include like not a lot of 6s too, not just like, 7, 8s, and 9s, which, would probably be like maybe your first instinct to really get advantage of your Goblin Welders and such. But I do like the 6 spots. So we do put in some strong 6s like a Wormcoil and Combustible Gearhulk. And I like Gearhulk too because it will also either just draw us gas or just put cards in the graveyard. And so those are just both things we want to do. So I'm very happy about the Gearhulk. And then we have the One Ring. This is just a beautiful card, of course, that just draws us a ton of cards. And we're going to need cards because under circumstances, with this red deck, we definitely have a lot of low CMC cards. And they're going to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting. So it's going to be important that we also have kind of a backup plan to draw some cards with some of these more stronger cards, especially like a One Ring, which plays more like a 6-drop than a 4-drop. Yeah, that's a kind of insane card. And then you have like some nice cards like Chiskoria. Like I said, you're going to put an abundance of artifacts on the battlefield. So this looks more like a 3 red card than anything else with our particular commander. And you're going to be able to fly in haste and then look for more artifacts when this, it just has to attack. Exile the top 5 cards of your library. You may cast an artifact spell from among them this turn. If you do, it has affinity for artifacts. So not only do you get a nice Dragon Haster with flying in haste, but you can keep looking for more artifacts and they'll be discounted amongst how many artifacts we have on the battlefield already by 1. There's the Saheeli's Directive. Those kind of go hand in hand with Chiskoria. Basically, this thing will, you can pay with improvise. So you can tap like your token artifacts as well. So like I said, you make a whole bunch of token artifacts in this deck, and I believe it's 2 red. And then, like I said, tap those in addition to the 2 red, and then you can go that many cards deep and find mana cost artifacts with that cost or less and put them directly on the battlefield. So it's a major, massive card for us. So that's the one I need here. Here's another like call out here, like Emrakul. I had this just like looking through the Brawl thing, and I was like, oh, that's cool. Like that's a nice Madness card where, I can go ahead and discard this on a turn cycle and then have like a nice 12/12. I could gain control of an opponent's creatures. And if this thing gets bombed, I believe, because this thing is final. When you cast a spell, gain control of creature's target player control. So even if this thing gets bombed, like their creatures would die too. So it's definitely a card I want to try out. Will it be good for us? I think it could be a good finisher. I don't know. I want to try it though. It seems like a good value. It's a 12/12 too. It'd be cool if it had flying, but whatever. I'm gonna put an Embercleave on that thing. Oh, Idol of Oblivion. This seems like a nice card too, because like like I said, we're creating so many artifact tokens all the time, and this just seems like an easy, like, draw a card, basically. Two colorless, draw a card, and we love that kind of effect for us. So, and it has that cool little thing where you can tap 8 and sack it to make a 10/10 colorless Eldrazi creature token. That's pretty cool. Scrap Mastery. Okay, so we've come into the cards that we will see as a benefit for getting lots of cards in our graveyard. So there are, other than the Kuldot the Forge Master, you have just something amazing like a Scrap Mastery where it will sacrifice all the artifacts on the battlefield, and then everybody will bring back to the battlefield artifacts in their graveyard at once. So, we're going to benefit this. We have a lot of good artifacts in our deck. And we'll just kind of utilize it and get the value. We probably have to sacrifice a couple tokens along the way and maybe some other artifacts on our battlefield, but usually we're going to be on the positive side of this, and we're going to get some nice value. Additionally, like a Duretti, this does all the things you want it to do as well. You can discard some cards and then draw that many cards, up to 2, then sacrifice an artifact if you do return target artifact card from your graveyard to the battlefield. That could be a blood token, that could be a treasure. And we're just exchanging those little scrappy things for beautiful things, right? The scrap savants. Very cool, flavor for all this, guys. So the Trash for Treasure, similarly, that's a 3-mana sorcery that does that exchange. And then we have the Goblin Engineer, which will entomb an artifact upon entering the battlefield. And then for a red and a tap, you can exchange an artifact on your battlefield for a 3 costed less artifact in your graveyard. So definitely we love our swords for that. The Palantir could be a choice. You might get your Magic Orb. There's a lot of options on the table. This is the strongest card probably other than Oxygonus, Goblin Welder, just because it just offers so much value in early game pressure. So this is definitely a target, and it really curves well with Ivora. So you could have some nice turn 2 plays, especially if you had like maybe some really fast acceleration with like a Mox Opal and Mox Amber. You could actually have that ability to utilize that blood token immediately on, like, for instance, turn 2, and perhaps resurrect something really nasty. So we love that. Mesmeric Orb, this is just our Oxygonus fodder / Phyrexian Dragon Engine. This thing is just going to beef our yard, and we're going to get access to their cards and get regas from that. Just works so well. Shriekhorn is also going to build our yard. Very, very Greasefang, very Maria vibes here. Of course, this is the things I love the most, and I know you all do as well. So thanks for hanging out with me today. Mishra's Bauble, that's just going to be good for our Dragon Rage Channeler and just like kind of build our yard for like an Underworld Breach. So we like kind of effects like that. More 0 mana plays too, kind of to get that artifact count up too for some of our other spells. There's the Dragon Rage Channeler that we just mentioned, cast a non-creature spell, and then of course we get to surveil with it. Ooh, baby, there's Underworld Breach too. Okay, so we're gonna build our yard. We'll get access to Underworld Breach and get access to some, more value that we love. Okay, and now here's Sticky Fingers. And Sticky Fingers is like a really nice card here. Great to stick on an Ivora, one of our early threats, like maybe an Aragavan. And then all of a sudden we have Menace, and now we're making treasures and blood tokens when we connect for damage with Ivora. So, and whenever this creature dies and this is attached, we draw a card, so it's great. There's Ragavan. This is our treasure suite. We know what Ragavan does. Professional Facebreaker, just great value for the treasures that we create. We'll be creating a decent amount of treasures in this deck. So, whether through the Fable, Ragavan, Sticky Fingers, Spiteful Banditry, Goldspan, there's many ways. And of course, this will give us a treasure when we make combat damage to one of our opponents, and we'll create a treasure. And then we can also sacrifice our treasures to exile the top card of our library and play them that turn, so it's very good. There's Goldspan Dragon, just a great card, guys. Just love the Goldspan for us, just to give us a little artifact creation, make our treasures tap for a little bit more when we sacrifice them. We just love it. Here's our protection suite. Lava Sparbirds is just great for that nice 1-cost equip. Gives us that ward 1 and haste. We love it. Commander's Plate, that's just gives Ivora a little more safety. just a little more safety for her. She's definitely a target, in the early game especially. So we want to make sure that we can give her a really good shot with like a commander's plate and like let her stick around and grow. Definitely the Swiftfoot boots will definitely help along the way for that. So we love the Swiftfoot boots and a Mithril coat. I like the Mithril coat in this deck in particular because like I said, this is a 2-costed commander and this is a 3-costed card. So you don't have to worry about this like competing with your commander, for the, a lot of commanders are 3 mana. And I don't really like that. I don't really like when my commander competes with like a card that I want to cast on curve. So I do like this a lot for Ivora because, we can just have this available at flash speed. Maybe Ivora gets, kind of targeted and boom, we're slapping on the Mithril Cloak. Very cool. Arcane Signet, there it is, guys. A little bit of Rampage. This is a kind of the ramp suite. We got the Ruby Medallion to reduce our red costed spells. Beautiful. Soul Ring busted. Mox Amber sees our 2-mana legendary like Ivora, and all of a sudden this thing is tapping for mana. That's perfect. Or maybe our Ragavan is even faster acceleration. So the Mox Amber is just completely insane. It even works really well with our Dragon Rage Channeler. Mox Opal, this is just going to love all the artifacts that we create. This thing like went up a lot. I think it like doubled in price. And I'm very privileged to like pick this up when it was, a little cheaper. But I don't think I could get that. I don't think I could afford this card now. But there's the Mox Opal. What's so great about this, of course, is it sees itself as an artifact and we can tap it for mana. It's a 0-cost card if we control 3 or more artifacts. So two additional artifacts, for instance, like a blood token. And perhaps another artifact we have on the battlefield, and this thing will start tapping for mana. Okay, here's the Great Train Heist. So there's that. I just had an idea, but maybe I'm not sure yet, but I was thinking maybe I even put some artifact lands here, maybe some of the indestructible ones. That would be kind of cool too for artifact count. But I will consider it. Great Train Heist. This is just kind of a way we're going to get into some extra combats. And I think we do want to be there with Ivora because we're going to have some nice double strikers that are going to get value overall. And just getting into those extra combats, having the extra combats will definitely probably get us over the finish line. This one also has the ability to create treasures too. So choose target opponent. Whenever a creature control deals combat damage to that player this turn, create a tap treasure token. So you can get into a lot of treasures that way too. Really love it a lot. Yeah, they can get first strike. You can really sink into that one. Lizard Blades. What a beautiful card, guys. Just look at it. It's so gorgeous. Oh, man. I love it here, too. I love putting like a sword of any of the swords, Forge and Frontier, or what is it called? Sword of Fire and Ice. I just love it. Just this thing just slams in and draws cards for you, gets value. You can put it under a creature so that it gets double strike. So versatile. Just love Lizard Blades. And here's the aforementioned swords. So we have the Sword of Forge and Frontier. This one's great with the Lizard Blades. I mean, you're getting 4 cards to look at and then 2 additional land drops when that thing connects. And you get a little protection. It's such a good value. Similarly, the Sword of Fire and Ice is really nasty because it'll actually impact the board. So when you connect, you can start like taking out creatures too, which is really nasty, and draw cards. Here's Karlach for our extra combat steps as well. Whenever you attack, if it's the first combat phase of this turn, untap all attacking creatures. They gain first strike until end of turn. After this phase, there's an additional combat phase. Fantastic. Slicer, Hired Muscle. This is also that double striker where we can put one of the swords on the slicer and just have it get busy, get really busy. So we just love that. We love double strike. We love Embercleave. We love all these things so much. It's just those blood tokens really add up as you create them. With Ivora and the blood, and just doing the combat damage. Commander damage is even great too. So what a cool little deck we got going on here. Here's a Spiteful Banditry. And that's just like a nice kind of global effect. Like, if we're playing against green, we might hold back on Ivora and kind of just wait for a good time to kind of, kill some birds and a couple elves and such, and maybe just impact the board to a degree and start making treasures. Blasphemous Act. 13 damage to each creature. Sure, seems like a good thing. Seems like a good thing for our, really robust opponents that have really got off to hot starts. We can kind of slow them down with a Blasphemous Act. Vandal Blast. This will just destroy all. We don't overload this for the four costs when red. You destroy each artifact that your opponents control. Beautiful card for us. And then we get into lands. We have a little bit of interaction with the Shatter Skull Smashing here. Kazul's Fury, of course, if we need to get over the finish line with Ivora, would be kind of fun. This Forgotten Cave is really interesting. I thought that was kind of fun. It does enter tapped, but it does cycle. So you can, like, if you need to, you can cycle this thing and it'll, you know, set off a lot of our synergy, like with maybe Inti or Ivora herself. So we like that kind of option, you know. And then, of course, the Fomori Vault. It's going to see all the artifacts that we have, and then we can go ahead and, you know, tutor up a card, you know, look, you know, 7 deep and find something that we like and put in our hand and then it's just a land. It's great. Silken Zan just to create some tokens. Plaza to protect our stuff. Urza Saga to go fetch up a, you know, 3 mana, you know, that, you know, on stage 3, like a nice, you know, 1 mana artifact or 0 mana artifact. You know, it could be a Shriek Horn, it could be a Soul Ring, you know, whatever we need. I mean, Commander's Plate. I mean, there's so many options. Pinnacle Monk, just to get back in our graveyard, get the value from our graveyard, and I think it's just very appropriate because we will be building that graveyard so well. Mycosynth Garden to copy artifacts that we have on the battlefield or act as a land. That seems like a good choice. Den of the Bugbear to get offensive if we need to get offensive. Arena of Glory to get some haste, some sneaky haste, and maybe one of our goblins that resurrects things, and we just want to do it like right there. So I think that's a great option, even like a Cityscape Leveler. Great option for Arena of Glory. We got some fetch lands to build our yard, and these will do that for our Underworld Breach, of course. Fabled Passage, Mesa, Bloodstained Mire, Scalding Time. Those will all get us red sources. Cavernous Souls for some uncounterability. We love that. Spikefield Hazard. That's a nice little cheeky removal spell. Mines of Moria, that's also a really cheeky spell for us because we'll be putting so many cards into our graveyard, and we will have a low-costed legendary, so Mines of Moria is a perfect card. Definitely underplayed, I think. Definitely suits us very well. Nykthos, Shrine of Nyx, just for our devotion and getting into our mana. Valakut, this is the one that I kind of wanted to try. I had this in the landfall deck, and I was thinking, well, we're in mono red, and we'll probably have a decent amount of mountains, so at least we'll be fetching them up. So I thought it'd be a good chance. You know, we don't play too many tap lands, so I thought Valakut would be a nice choice to like kind of maybe, you know, reach that criteria of having 5 or other mountains on the battlefield, and then as mountains came into the battlefield, we would just go ahead and do the damage, 3 damage to a creature or a player. And then additionally, just have some nice, I got these lands from the Jumpstart lands. I just had them sitting there, and I really like the Pyramid one. So there's that. So there's the Pyramids. They're beautiful. So yeah, I know they're not full art, but they're cool, and they're Jumpstarts. So I feel like they're very appropriate for our commander here, Miss Ivora. So that is the deck. That is the 100 cards. And I hope you enjoyed that today, guys. If you did, go ahead and hit me a like and subscribe. Thanks for engaging with me. I appreciate all of you. And yeah, this definitely, I'm on my winter break now, so we get to kind of hang out and relax and kind of maybe go to the LGS. I won a raffle there last night, guys, so I have to return. I have till tomorrow. Commander Games Las Vegas on Flamingo. You're going to love it, guys. All right, is it Rainbow? Yeah, Rainbow and Flamingo, I believe. Great store, guys. They even had like sandwiches there. Jason's Deli last night. There was just free. It was just like, what is going on? Like, this place is like just ripping. So, great place, and maybe I'll see you there sometime. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this one, and hope you really have some cool ideas for it. Because this one is a cool one, guys. This one is a really cool commander and then very strong. Not a puny commander, that is for certain. So I hope you all have a good one and have a great day. Have a great weekend. Bye-bye.